Hi, welcome to GiveThx. I'm Amy Alamar, the Director of Schools Program, and we're so excited to have you with us today to review our curriculum. Hopefully you've been enjoying GiveThx in your learning community so far this school year, and this is another way to incorporate it a little bit more regularly into your own practice. We are going to review the scope and sequence and the full curriculum, and we welcome you to join us for office hours on Wednesday, October 13th at 12 noon Pacific and 3 o'clock Eastern. You can, of course, always reach out to me at amy@givethanks.org if you want to schedule a private one-on-one. This is a general list of resources we like to provide for you, and I'll just point out specifically the ones to do with the curriculum. So you've got a link to a one-pager guide to our practices, which you've probably already been poking around. We've also got the scope and sequence for the 3-year curriculum, a link to each year of the actual curriculum, the units and the lessons, as well as our implementation checklist if you want any added tips for rolling out in your learning community. So we'll just start with a quick review of the practices. You're likely quite familiar with these. This is our practices guide. You know, we have both giving and reflection practices, and these are practices you might implement, say, at the start of class or maybe to end class. You might do it with staff at the end of a staff meeting as well. We encourage you to look through these. These practices are incorporated throughout the curriculum as well. Here's just a reminder of how you might actually incorporate the practices, and you maybe, like I said, are already doing this. But say, you do a check-in or check-out at the beginning of class. Maybe it's, a content class or a homeroom class, and you may want to use something like the reflection check-in. Or if you have morning meetings, maybe end of the week assemblies, you might do something like a thank, pair, share. And so you can click on those, and all of these resources will be at your fingertips after this webinar. We have a link here for checking out more ideas with some suggestions to specifics with the practices as well. Now we're going to take a look at that multi-year curriculum for you. And so this is the scope and sequence. And if you imagine you're using the practices maybe as a check-in or a check-out or an end of the week assembly, maybe even a staff meeting check-in, you can think about the curriculum maybe more like it's nestled within an anchor class. That anchor class could be a content class like ELA, science, math, social studies, language, or it could be a homeroom or advisory class or a specific class where you focus on social emotional learning. And so this is intended to be about 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week. If you want to do it all in one sitting because that's how your schedule works, or you want to spread it out, that's up to you. We also always encourage these practices to be used within the staff community as well. You can see we've broken it down by year. And each year starts with the same 2 units, that gratitude science and building new communities. So if you are using it with the same group of kids and you feel like in that 2nd or 3rd year, you want to skip to unit 3, that's totally fine. You can also use any of these units piecemeal if that works better for your community. So just note that that 3rd unit is where we start to introduce social emotional competencies. And so you can see in that 1st year, it's kindness. In the 2nd year, we start with caring. And in the 3rd year, we start with humor. You can rotate in your own social emotional competencies if you like, or you can stick with the ones that we've recommended here. As you go through that 3rd unit, it's going to wrap around that competency and really talk about what is this competency? How do we define it? How do we recognize it? What does it look like? What does it sound like in the classroom, out of the classroom? And after we've walked through that, then each unit after 4 through 8 is going to look at a competency in that same way, but also have a little bit of a spin of a topic like health and wellness, developing relationships, inclusion, digital citizenship, and personal growth. So we'll just kind of look at it very specifically for you to give you a sense of what you've got, and then you can always click in and look at it in more detail. Year 1, these are the units that we go through in year 1. Again, those first 2 units repeat each year. When we introduce those first 2 units, we're really looking at like, what is gratitude? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this as a community? How do we build community? How do we relate to one another. And so we look specifically at what gratitude is, how do we use it, how do we recognize it, how do we benefit from practicing gratitude, and how do we help others? And then what does it mean within our own community? How do we build those connections and send messages that are meaningful, get to know others, and realize our own role in the community? Each unit comes with a unit overview. And so this is the one for unit 1. It kind of outlines the 4 units within it, or the 4 lessons within it. Those lessons can be broken down. As you can see, they can be broken down throughout the week, or you can use them all in one sitting. And each one comes with a lesson and a deck. So you can see we have links to them here, and then you can just kind of get an overview and then jump right specifically in. Here's an example of one of our lessons. This looks very similar to our practice guide lessons. We've kept it to 1 page, so it's very easy for you to digest and guide in practice. They also come with lesson decks when needed, and also any other additional resources you may need to guide that lesson. And you'll notice that it also has the facilitation along the right, as well as the CASEL competencies down here in the bottom left. This is an example of one of the slide decks that we would provide for you. This is just the opening slide for that lesson. And here's an overview of Unit 2 as we jump into building new community. So we've talked about the gratitude science. We've really broken it down for kids, the value of gratitude, what are the benefits to them. And now we're talking about how to make connections, how to send messages, how do we actually get to know other people and become part of our community. Again, you'll notice each unit has a breakdown of the lessons with the enduring understandings and the objectives, and a breakdown of the timing and the facilitation. And then we jump right into an example of a learning activity for that second unit. Also, you'll notice that there's a resources section there for you down here, a link to those CASEL social emotional competencies, as well as the facilitation. I wanted to point out Unit 3 because this is where the units take a little bit of a different rhythm, and then they keep this rhythm. So in Unit 3 is the first time we look at a competency specifically. This one is kindness. And so again, you could put in different social emotional competencies that your community wants to focus on. But in that first week, we define the competency. The second week, we practice it and practice recognizing it, as well as in the third week. And then in the fourth week, we assess it. Where are we at? Do we understand it? Have we recognized it? Have we met a goal that we've set? And I'll just point out that that third week varies, and that's where the topics come in as we move along, units 4 through 8, which I was talking about before. And so here's a quick overview of it, and you'll see those lessons look very similar to the lessons from the first 2 units. We've tried to keep them very easy to implement, but very topical as well. So you're defining that competency, and you're using some of those practices from the practice guide throughout to get the students used to that regular practice of gratitude. Thank you so much for taking a peek at that curriculum. Again, I encourage you to go through those resources so that if you want to check them out and look at the specific units and lessons, you're welcome to do that. There's a bit.ly here at the top. It'll take you to this presentation with links to everything I've gone over. And of course, you can always reach out to me, amy@givethanks.org, and we welcome you to come to our office hours on October 13th, 12 noon Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.